Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the South Derbyshire series, a district of Derbyshire which stretches from Leicestershire to Staffordshire, containing 50 civil parishes. Here's one of them for you. Welcome back to South Derbyshire again, folks. Now, this village has got some interesting buildings. Here's one right behind me here. An interesting building, that one, isn't it? We're going to be looking at that one last. It's the last thing to catch on our route, because first we're going the other way. If I turn the camera around here, you'll see what we're going to begin with. Here we go. Look at this terraced row here. This is literally called the Row. Probably the most historic batch of buildings this place has got. So let's talk about these as we go around Barrow-on-Trent. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like, and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Barrow-on-Trent, Grove on the flooding river. Our journey through South Derbyshire continues to the west this week as we take on Barrow-on-Trent, a small village with a lot of character. Known simply as Barrow to the locals, like Swarekstone, this one can be found to the south of Derby, again between the River Trent and the Trent and Mersey Canal. It's a quiet village in the main, but one with some rather unique features. These include the Row, a set of cottages like none other, belonging to the village as private property. Until the end of World War II, Barrow was a small rural parish comprising several small farms with attached cottages and small family businesses like bakeries, butchers and blacksmiths. The type of housing ranged from small crook cottages dating back to medieval times through to larger properties like Arleston House, the Hill, the Hall, the Grange, the Manor House and St Wilfred's House. The overall shape of the village has remained virtually unchanged over the past 300 years. Several transport routes, though, have altered the landscape to the north. In the 18th century, the canal carved its way across the parish, soon followed by the Castle-Donington line. Then along came two bypasses which follow much the same path as the canal and the railway line. Let's walk and carve our own path across the parish. We begin with a set of cottages right in the heart of the village at a central crossroads. This is the Row, a collection of 18th century properties belonging to the parish. They're not part of a housing authority, nor are they almshouses. They are uniquely Barrows and are private property. The parish council acts as a landlord, and the rental income from these properties is used to maintain and upgrade them. Any surplus income is then available for the benefit of the entire parish. The cottages are only available for the use of parishioners and very close family members. Right in front of the Row is a bus stop. Barrow is served by two, the 70A between Derby and Willington and the 219 which goes to Etwall. Nearby too is the parish notice board, 9 down in South Derbyshire now and 41 to go. We are motoring through them. Next is the school. This is Sale and Davies Church of England Primary, which gets its name thanks to the two people who endowed it. They were Elizabeth Sale of Willington, who left £100 for the establishment of a girls' school in 1776, and Thomas Davy, who increased the endowment by way of his will in 1856. Barrow's War Memorial next. This is a sandstone monument comprising a wheeled cross on a shaft above a square die. There are 36 names listed upon this one, all of whom are men that served in World War I, but it's not known how many actually died. Across the road is an old schoolhouse. This was the original Sale and Davy School, which is now a house. This was built by public subscription in 1843 for £150 and run under the auspices of the National School Society. It was replaced by the new school in 1998, which kept both the name and the charity which generates its funds. After a walk up Twyford Road, we find ourselves at the village hall, the focus of so many local events. This houses a nursery, of the child kind, not the plant kind, as well as the local Women's Institute. There's also an exercise class held here on Saturday mornings. Over the road is the hall's car park and the local cemetery, which was created when the churchyard became full. Plots here are solely for the residents of Barrow-on-Trent or those with close links to the village. Who lies here ultimately is at the discretion of the parish council. Now at the end of the road is the A5132, which has bypassed the village since 1969. That's the Grange, a 3-storey farmhouse that once belonged to the Beaumont family. They also occupied the elegant Barrow Hall too, which during World War II was a home for evacuees. That though burned down in 1956. Okay, so to get to our next part of the village we have to follow the main road, and there's not really a lot on this, to be honest with you. It's just basically a road with no footpaths, and it's quite busy as well. Even though there's no traffic in this particular shot here, I have had a couple of lorries and cars come past me. Remember folks, if you're ever on a road like this, you've got every right to walk on it, but stay to the right hand side. That's the safest thing to do. And if something big comes along, if you can get over to the grass verge, then do so. Don't want anyone getting flattened, do we? A right turn now into Brookfield, which will take us back to the central crossroads. On the junction is the only pub in the village, the Brookfield. This is not the only local venue for beer, snacks and entertainment though, because there is a second one which is out of the village. More on that later. The Brookfield is a child and pet friendly establishment and welcomes walkers and bikers. It's a good place for all to relax and chat in comfort. Next we turn left onto Chapel Lane as we start to head towards the eastern end of civilization. This is a dead end, but it becomes a handy footpath at its limit. Along here there's some modest allotments. That'll keep the fans happy for another episode. Chapel Lane is otherwise a collection of modern houses, some newer than others, but as you might have already guessed, there's one house in particular that's interesting up here. That would be the old Congregational Methodist Chapel. This was built in 1839, originally for the independents, but ended up in Methodist use. It's made of brick with a hip slate roof and pointed arched doorway under a large date stone. It's also got 3 lancet windows in its side walls. The end of the path brings us to Church Lane, and in front of us here is the Trent, yet again. Notice that Barrow is daringly close to the river. Barrow has had lots of problems with flooding in the past, and just recently the Trent had overtopped its banks once again. You'll see in a moment there was still lots of water on the road here. At least you can't deny that the village name is right. After all, Barrow's name does mean grove on the flooding river. We continue on, and with a view across the Trent is the Manor House, where members of the Sale family once lived. After marching onward a little further, I passed this curious little stone by the roadside. No idea what this is or was, but it looked old. You can certainly see the floodwater now. Being this close to a major river, it goes without saying almost that there will be water-related features. Here's one, a small sewage pumping station, practically the only building on the southern side of the road. Aside from that, it's all on the north, and it's an eclectic collection of property. Here's a couple of examples as we continue towards the next big landmark. Well, this road alongside the Trent feels like it goes on forever, and there's plenty of floodwater on the road, so you have to be careful at this time of year, especially as the Trent has just burst its banks. But we are approaching the end. As you can see over there, there is a corner, and just around that corner is the row where we started, but on the way there's also the church. Now we come to St Wilfrid's Church, a pre-conquest Anglo-Saxon building. This was given to the Knights Hospitaller in 1165 by Robert de Bakeries, and they developed the building until around 1540. Inside the church is an alabaster effigy of a priest thought to be John de Belton. It's believed to be one of the oldest of its kind in the country. If you step into the churchyard, you'll be met with a few things. Here's an information board which tells you about the Knights Hospitaller and the gardens that were kept here by them. The locals have even made a little recording of their own, which you can listen to here too.
Our church started life as the central meeting place and stronghold of a small Anglo-Saxon village. After 11 centuries of change, we took the decision to go back to the future and make St Wilfrid's what it once was, the centre of village community life, available to everyone who wanted to use it. It is now not just a place of worship, but a centre for all, for community activities, music, exercise, games, meetings, conferences, and anything else you may think of. The church belongs to everyone. We have returned it to everyone.
St Wilfrid's has 2 Black Death pits in the churchyard. Although there are no records of this period available, Barrow was a poor settlement at that time, so the toll on the population must have been catastrophic. Also within the churchyard is the grave of the British author and critic Anne Mosley. Born in Gainsborough, Mosley worked as an almost anonymous author and was credited with the first review of George Eliot's novel Adam Bede. Just outside the church is the pinfold. Although of an unknown original date, this is in reasonable condition, having been last repointed in 1987. And so to the last building on the route, the cute little white structure on the corner of Twyford Road. That's Lodge Cottage, which was built in 1810 to serve the now demolished Barrow Hall. It's one of the 12 listed buildings in the parish, 10 of which lie within the village itself. And here we are back at the row, and here I found something at the row which I didn't notice earlier. Look at this. Right outside we have an old water pump. There we go. How about that? A nice little landmark to end with. It's one of those things, just blends into the background if you don't know it's there. But yeah, just noticed it as I turned the corner, so there we go. Okay, we're not quite done with this one yet. I've got a little bit of driving to do up to a secondary settlement which falls within Barrow-on-Trent's boundaries. So let's go and find that to finish. Just north of the bypass around Barrow is a small industrial estate known as Bridge Farm, which contains a few notable businesses. Here we're outside JPS Flowers, which is a warehouse for all things floral. Next door to this is Mac G Racing, a motorsports racing team, engineering company and performance parts supplier established in 2010. Bridge Farm also has a taxi service which provides transport to and from the nearby East Midlands Airport, and an engineering company called Support Systems Nottingham. Continuing to the north, you pass over a humpback bridge carrying the road over the Trent and Mersey Canal, which if you squint can be seen here on the left. This cuts a path across the northern reaches of the parish between the bypass and the A50, following closely the route of the Castle Donington railway line, which we met last week. Partway down the road, you'll spot one of the other listed buildings in the parish, Deepdale Bridge, which in relation to the others on the canal carries the number 17. It's late 18th century and single span with a hump back. Fun fact, all of the bridges on the Trent and Mersey Canal are designed to accommodate boats of up to 7 feet wide. Speaking of boats, if you moor up out here, you might want to check out the Ragley Boat Stop. This is Barrow Parish's other pub, a King Henry's Tavern, which features lots of eating areas, a magnificent garden sloping down to the Trent and Mersey Canal, and a super balcony where you can relax and watch the world go by. And so to Alston, a hamlet which lies up a bumpy track between Barrow and Stenson. Alston is the site of a deserted medieval village, but that's thought to lie a ways away to the west. In 1086, the Domesday Book lists Alston's population as 31, and there aren't many more than that today. Latest census figures record 44 inhabitants, spread out between 17 houses. Of those, 3 are farms or former farmhouses, 3 are original agricultural labourers' cottages, and 11 are converted farm outbuildings. Now, you can't talk about this place without also mentioning Marybower. You won't find that on a map though. Marybower today is combined with Alston, and the earliest written record of it as a place name can be found on a manuscript in the Matlock Records Office, detailing those that lived on the Harper Crewe estate. In 1663, John Clark lived at Marybower House. It's not known though if that property was or still is the current Marybower Farm, or if there was another house that's since been destroyed. That's been Barrow-upon-Trent, folks. Thanks for following me around this one. Next week, we'll be seeing the Trent again, but from a much higher elevation. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.